I have a pretty massive project in mind for the upper region of my Skyblock world, which means that in this episode, I need to go and set up a Froglight farm to get some coloured lights happening in my Skyblock world. Don't forget to leave a like if you're excited for the episode, subscribe if you're new, and let's get into it. Well, here we are back at our floating island, where today I'm thinking there's a bit of a blank area over here, and there's farmland, but not really a farmhouse. So without wasting any time, I'm going to get straight into setting up for this farmhouse. I'm thinking I'm going to use similar-ish color scheming to the little barn that is already built. But rather than bricks and diorite, I am opting for mangrove and calcite this time around. So of course that means I'm going to have to get a bunch of mangrove to be able to build with. Mangrove wood might look good, but these are the most frustrating trees to work with in Minecraft, by far. So now that I've got some materials set up, I will start to mark out a bit of a floor plan for this farmhouse. And fortunately, because now this is a floating island, I won't be losing any of the dirt. And then I can start to mark in where I'm going to put the flooring using a nice two-tone wood stripe pattern. And then coming back through and stripping down all of the wood, where we now have a place to start with this farmhouse. Trying to keep a similar vibe to this, so it'll probably be mangrove to the ends with maybe 1 or 2 stripes of it through the middle. So this is probably a good start as far as where the mangrove is going to go. And then putting in some calcite, leaving room for windows. And so now with a rough shape in, I can go back through with some stairs and start to come up with a bit of a roof shape. Maybe trying to adopt similar steep pitch to this. I reckon something like this could look cool. Even though it's got a massive 5 head right now, I think we can break up the shape by putting in a loft and a window or something like that. So I can just repeat that roof shape down the side of the building. So now that half of the roof is on, I've got to figure out what to do with the shape on this side, which I don't think will be that difficult. Probably mostly using slabs. And so we essentially just have a little lean-to that slopes down slowly like this. But I think slabs should probably go in here, just for continuity. That's better. And next, to deal with the interior, I'm thinking a loft up the top. And the whole point of this is to have farmer villages to trade with. So I'll set up a few farmer villages around the outside. And I do have plans for a farm to go beneath this. So we'll probably need a trapdoor going down to get access to that farm. So I can start off by figuring out where these villages are going to sit. And then I feel like it makes sense to get the villagers into the house before I start decorating it. So we'll just send a few villagers across from our villager breeder and work on getting these guys set up. Trapdoor him in, and then composter ready for the next villager. And well, yeah, just got to repeat that another 9 times. Look, I swear this isn't child labor. He's turning 18 soon. Only took a little bit of time, but now we've got 10 farmer villages in here. So that means I can finish off the building by putting in an interior. And I'll just put you down here. And so I'll start out by filling out this with full glass blocks because I want to put a staircase in here. Not that way. Staircase up to the top, and then smoothing out that line with some more stairs, and come back through with a mangrove handrail type thing. Then up the top where we have the loft, I want to use trapdoors across just to avoid having any issues with head height. So having the spruce trapdoors at low level down there, and essentially just bringing them all the way across, which means I will have to get rid of that trapdoor, which is fine. They're not facing the right direction. So it looks like I need to make sure I'm building off the walls here. Otherwise, we're not going to get all the trapdoors facing in the same direction, which is fine. Tuck those in so that I can actually do that. And moving up top, I want to put in some windows up here as well, which for these glass panes will be fine. So we can put in a couple of beds to act as couches, something like that. Random double chest just for double chest, just for some extra storage if I need it. And then we can bring some greenery around up here as well. A couple of big pots with little pots in the top. Chuck in some flowers. And then can also work in maybe here a little cherry tree. Although that doesn't work how I was expecting it to. So we'll ditch that. Just put a couple of leaves in. Bit of shrubbery. Why not? And of course, can't forget the lighting, but it might be a bit tricky to put some lanterns in here. Some more trapdoors then. There we go, that works. And maybe one here as well. Yep. Then coming back downstairs, we need to put some lighting down here as well. Again, putting in lanterns might be a little bit tricky, but I can put them on top of trapdoors, sort of just like that. And then putting in one around the corner here as well. And then perhaps a little bit of greenery down here as well. Put a tulip in there. Then maybe a little flower pot down the bottom with a cherry sapling. And then a taller one next to it as well, which I can put a pink tulip into. And well, this is a nice cozy little interior. And one important detail that I forgot there was putting in a trapdoor so that we can get down to this farm that I intend to build. And this farm is going to be a pumpkin and melon farm, which in all honesty, it's kind of surprising that I haven't made one yet in this world. Obviously, I've got a manual one up on the surface, but yeah, no automatic one until now. So we can make another room down the bottom here in a similar style to that of the actual farmhouse above. Starting off with a little room like this for the storage with access out to the actual farm out the back. The amount of depth that I have here is good because I do not want to have the minecart as close to the surface as this was, because you can hear that minecart when you're walking over the path. So I'm thinking I'm going to set this farm down a little bit, maybe down at this level or something like that at least. And so keeping that height differential in mind, I have done a quick mock-up of what this farm is going to look like in the survival world. Mostly so I could try and figure out how this was going to actually connect into the storage system up the top. So now I can go and collect some materials to get this built in the survival world. So I went around and got all the materials that I need, including some redstone, glass, and then I had to go into the nether to my gold farm to AFK for a bit because I needed powered rails for this farm. And then I went back to my base and crafted up some redstone components like hoppers, repeaters, comparators, and crafters. So with everything we need, let's get into it. Well, I'm sure you've probably seen a pumpkin and melon farm be built before. We've got the collection system down the bottom and then the farmland on top with pistons and observers facing downwards so that whenever something grows, the pistons activate and harvest the crops. Now the farm's all done, but I got my measurements off ever so slightly, which meant that I had to change how the inside of this looks, but that's no big deal. And we've got pumpkins and melons starting to funnel in, which means we can move on to naming some of our villages. I started this process off by zombifying all the new farmer villages that we've got, and then going back and curing them all so that I could get better prices on all of my trades. I also had a little bit of tidying up to do, realizing that with the better animations mod, all of the villages look like they're actually sitting inside of a minecart. And then I went back around to name the villages with suggestions that I got in the comment section of a recent short that I made. There's still heaps of villages to name in this world, so leave a villager name suggestion in the comment section of this video, and I might use it to name a villager in the next episode. Well, that was a worthwhile exercise. I managed to reclaim nearly 3 shulker boxes full of minecarts. Next up on my to-do list before I build this Froglight farm is actually sitting right behind me. The nether portal is pretty ugly from underneath. You can actually see there's little placeholder blocks. Not very pretty. So I want to give this the floating island treatment, although it'll be slightly different and probably a little bit more grand because I think I'm just going to use more quartz to do this, which means I've got to go over and trade with our stonemasons. Although first there's probably some quartz over at the bartering station. Well, it was a non-zero amount, but not really amazing. So I guess that's 28 blocks of quartz that I don't have to trade for at least. And with the emeralds that I have on hand, we can trade with one villager. And this is one of the reasons why I set up all these farmer villages, because this farm under here is going to get us a lot of emeralds. Using the pumpkins and melons, I traded with the farmers to get some emeralds, and then I had to go and trade some iron to get some more emeralds. And then I spent a long time trading with the mason villagers to get quartz blocks, because we need a lot of quartz for this build. And then I also went off and mined up a geode for the amethyst. Well, I'm hoping I now have enough quartz to get this underway. And I'm thinking that the easiest way to do this is by making a bit of a platform underneath first, and then I can just use scaffolding to get up and actually place stuff. So I'm thinking just to start off with, I'll put some quartz pillars around the outside edge. I think mostly just so that I can actually build from ground level. And then from here I want to figure out 6 places to put some little like hanging spire things. Not really spires, but like legs that this whole thing is actually floating from. I thought I wasn't going to need scaffolding for this, but apparently I still do, which is fine. So something sort of like that, although looking at it now, it needs to come down a bit further before I put the stairs on. I also decided that the scale I was trying to work with wasn't really appropriate, but I'm happy with how this is starting to come out. Then we can start to bring in some chiseled blocks just for a change in texture, make it look a bit fancier. And then maybe it all comes into a point sort of down here. And then from here can start to bring in some of the amethyst. So maybe something like that. I feel like this will work all right. Maybe just bring the amethyst block down one more so it's got a bit of a point to it. But yeah, I think this will work pretty well for the little floating feet of the nether portal. Replicating the same design on each corner to have the 4 feet that I'd mentioned just before, I created the outside feet and then went to the middle to come up with a different design, or the middle 2 feet on each side, and then of course filling in the underside to make sure that you couldn't see any of the ugly bits. And flying back to take the first look at it, it's actually not too bad. I think it fits in well with the scale of the build, although looking at it from the side, it definitely needs the lanterns underneath these pillars too. Looking much cleaner under here now, which just leaves the monumental task of finishing up this. But I mean, that's a job for another episode, because now I need to gather up some materials to get started on this Froglight farm. What a fail, this guy couldn't even fly into that little gap. So bad. Anyway, all I really needed for this Froglight farm was some glass, some building blocks, a few random bits and pieces like chains and iron bars, but needed a lot of mine carts and rails. Okay, so let's head to the nether and get started. So first task here is to get to a basalt deltas biome, and I'm fairly certain that there's one over here. Yep, awesome. So now I'm just going to set up a working platform to try and make this a little bit easier. So I found that heading in that direction, I would run into a nether wastes. So hopefully, starting the platform over here, I will have the entire farm inside of the basalt deltas. But we'll find out as we build it. The tutorial that I used for this farm was actually the shulker craft tutorial. I'll leave the link in the description. And I also had to use it in conjunction with a fix, as the reach of magma cubes and slimes was updated in a recent update, which means that they could kill the iron golems. So you just have to put a few chains around them to make sure that the magma cubes can't reach the golems. And so now the farm is built, but not yet completed. because I'm missing arguably the most important part, frogs. So I've got to head back to the overworld and try and find either a mangrove swamp or a normal swamp, which may take a while. Quick stop off at the slime farm to get some slime balls so that we can breed these frogs if we find them. No, when we find them. And now I just have to keep an eye out for a swamp or a mangrove swamp. Looks like we found a witch's hut, so I will actually be able to get a frog around here. Yeah, that didn't take very long at all, only 7,000 blocks away from spawn. Fortunately for me, I'm not an idiot, and I definitely didn't forget to bring dirt with me, and didn't have to go back through the nether to go back to my base and get dirt so that I could actually get frogs to spawn in this swamp. Yeah, no, that definitely didn't happen, because as I said, I am not an idiot. So then I finished building the platform for the frogs to spawn on, and I waited and waited night and day until... chickens. That is not a frog. Sorry, fellas. So then I made the executive decision to move the platform downwards because apparently mobs spawn more frequently down the bottom, and then I actually had to go and wait probably another 2.5 hours with the wrong mobs still continuing to spawn in until... Oh my gosh, frogs, frogs, frogs. I don't know how long these two have been here. Okay. Sick. Okay, and we can get our first tadpoles now. They don't want to breed? I don't know what's going on, but for some reason this frog won't take a slime ball. This one, no problems. But yeah, I'm not getting them to breed, which kind of need them to set up this farm. So I don't know if I'm just going to have to wait for another frog to spawn. Well, I've done some Google searching and also tried out something in a creative world, but can't figure it out. So looks like I'm going to have to wait for another frog to spawn, which is fine. It's fine. I'm definitely not killing those sheep out of anger. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I just needed to kill the sheep. Oh my goodness. Why? Why? I have no idea why that worked, but here we are. And frog spawn, finally. Now to wait for these little guys to hatch. So I only need 4 of each color, so I'll leave 2 here to grow up. And some more tadpoles on the way now. Got the perfect number of tadpoles here, so I can take 4 into a cold biome and another 4 into a warm biome. So now to sit and wait for these 2 to grow up, and then figure out how to get these frogs across the nether to the actual farm. So then after getting the frogs, I had to build a bridge across in the nether to get to the actual farm, and then start bringing frogs across in boats and taking them up to the farm with leads. I then had to go to the other 2 biomes that we didn't have the frog colors for yet, let the tadpoles grow up, and then repeat the process of bringing them through the nether. Fortunately, when I was in the warm biome, the nether portal that I'd made ended up out the front of the Froglight farm, which meant that after those tadpoles were grown up, I literally just had to take them into the nether and then use a lead to take them up into the farm. And of course, after I was finished taking all the frogs in, I went around and cleaned everything up. And so here we are all those hours later with our finished Froglight farm. Finally. I say finished, but I am missing an AFK platform above, so I'm just going to quickly go grab some glass, come back and build the platform. I'm also realizing that now having access to magma cream means I'll be able to make this gold farm more efficient. And now we can watch the farm work in all of its beauty. Alright, well I've just been sitting here for half an hour, so come down and check out how many froglights I got. Yeah. I mean, these rates are pretty good. I dare say I will not be running short on froglights, regardless of how big the projects are that I plan on doing. Now that we've got some froglights, there's a couple of things that I want to use them for to tidy up around here. Like, for example, torches are incredibly ugly. I would much rather do something like that. Froglights with moss carpet over the top, so we'll still get the benefits of the light levels, which means no mobs spawning, but it looks a lot neater than having torches lying around all over the place. So I ran around deleting all of the torches and replacing them with Froglights with moss carpet over the top. Alright, so I've got rid of all the torches around the island, but I'm yet to deal with the ones in the center of the island, because what I was thinking of doing was clearing out all the grass from the middle and then putting Froglights down around the perimeter of this circle with green glass above. So with some blocks placed down, I can place all the Froglights facing upwards so we don't get any changes in the texture. I don't know, I feel like it's just going to look neater this way. And then I didn't realize, but this andesite is all slabs, so I'm going to have to go through and replace it all with full blocks so that I can actually place some glass. Now I have tidied up all the lighting on the floating island, which is awesome. I also want to coarse dirt up a couple of spots, like the barn, for example. It doesn't really make any sense that there's grass here, so clear out a little path, and then we can mine out all the grass in here and just replace it with coarse dirt. This definitely fits the vibe a lot better than the grass did. And last item to tidy up in this episode is this staircase, which I don't think I really need to do too much to, but yeah, I just want to tidy it up a little bit because it doesn't really look overly good. Definitely still some more work to be done at some stage, but it looks a lot better with the stairs actually thickened up a bit. Well, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I'll leave you with this thought. I found a pale garden biome while I was actually trying to find a warm biome for my frogs. See you in the next one.